How much does it cost to run an Azure Virtual Machine? In this video, I'll show you how much I spent to run a Windows 11 PC in the cloud on Azure. Now, using Azure is a way to access compute resources, and it might just be a solution that can help you as an educator, a student, or a developer, or anyone that has a need for additional computer resources but can't or doesn't want to commit to buying new hardware. Maybe you have some older equipment, maybe you need a clean system to test or work with, maybe you want to try out a new operating system or programs, and you don't want to change your existing system. But the question that often comes up is, how much will it cost if I use the cloud to run a virtual PC in Azure? Or actually, even more often, the comment comes up, it's too much. But is it really too much? Does it really cost too much? As W. Edwards Deming said, without data, you're just another person with an opinion. So I decided to collect some data specifically for this video. Now, I tend to use a lot of cloud services, so my monthly spend is probably not typical. For this video, I wanted a system that was dedicated to just one virtual machine on Azure, and I wanted to avoid mixing this data collection with my other devices and services. So for some of the stuff I do, like Data Factory and Synapse work, it's going to be a lot more expensive. What I did is I created a dedicated machine just for this video. I also wanted it to be a basic user system, something that represents a typical system that an end user might use. So it's not going to be a video game system. It's not an editing suite. Those are intensive applications and intensive requirements, and that's not what we're looking for in this video here. We're looking at a basic system. So I'll give you the cost breakdown in a moment, but it's important to look at some of the parameters that I set for myself in this video. What I've done may not match your usage patterns or needs, but I think it's a good generic and functional system that'll give us a good idea of what an average user might expect to pay per month. First, I didn't just try to replicate my laptop in Azure. At home, I have an Alienware R5 system with an i9 processor, 32 gigs of RAM, and a dedicated NVIDIA graphics card. It's a gaming system. Why do I have a gaming system? Because I try to convince myself that I will actually have time to play some games one day. In reality, I tend to use it for data analysis, teaching, email, consuming media, and creating videos for this channel. So sometimes I'm able to play some Flight Simulator, but for any gaming I actually do, it seems like I'm using handheld systems or consoles these days, and I'm a bit of a retro gamer actually, so you don't need too powerful of a system for that. Anyways, gaming aside, for my Azure VM, I decided I wanted a system where I could install Windows 11 in the developer's preview, install Microsoft Office, and then put in Adobe Photoshop and Acrobat so I could play with those programs. I also decided I wasn't going to run the system all day every day, mostly because I did need to sleep at some points, and I don't have any jobs that need to run overnight. I don't need a 24/7 system. To this end, I would just start the system sometime in the morning when I got into my office around 7 or 8 a.m., and then I had it set to automatically shut down at 7 p.m. local time. Now, Azure's nice. It'll send me a little email prior to shutdown, which allows me to extend the time that the system runs, but I figured if I ran it for 10 to 12 hours a day, that would be a good enough representation of the actual time I spend on a computer each day. It would allow me to use the application and represent a real use case scenario. This was my use case, a Windows 11 preview system for email, Office, web use, and some Photoshop. I'm not an expert in Photoshop, so I just did some of the tutorials in Photoshop. So I wanted to see how that would work, handling the actual work, and then I had to allocate some resources for this. So what Azure VM did I allocate for all of this? I used an Azure B2 second generation with 2 cores and 4 gigs of RAM, which for those paying attention, it's not a very powerful machine compared to a typical system that you might purchase, but that's half the point. I didn't over-spec my system and then only use 5% of its capacity. I created a system capable of meeting my needs and also running Windows 11, by the way. So let's just take a look at my cost. I'm going to go to Cost Management. Underneath Cost Management, I'm going to go to the subscription that I'm interested in, and then I'm going to go into a cost analysis. For this machine here, you'll see that I have a subscription that has a number of different resources available, and you'll see that I'm spending X amount of dollars for the month. Instead of just looking at this value though, I'm going to switch it over to United States dollars so that everybody can sort of have a common ground there. And I'm going to go in, and instead of looking for the entire value, I'm just going to go for the last 7 days. And instead of looking at all of my resources, I'm going to go in and I'm going to look at specific resource, and I'm going to look at my Win 10 cost demo. I did upgrade to Windows 11, so we'll go in here and you can see that for the week, and I'll even go ahead, instead of looking at daily and accumulate, I'll look at daily costs. It cost me $8.82 for the week. I hope you found that interesting. Maybe you found it useful, maybe enlightening, or maybe it just enrages you because you dislike cloud services. Think you need a powerful computers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to watch YouTube and check your email? Or maybe you have other issues with renting resources on an external data center such as Azure. If that's you, then you might like another video I did on the top 5 reasons not to use a cloud-based virtual machine. But no matter what your thoughts, I do hope it was clear from the data that I presented that I did not have to spend very much to have a computer that did what I wanted it to do. I have videos here on the channel on how you can set this up yourself, as well as the new Windows 365 service. And briefly, Windows 365 will potentially make running a cloud PC even easier and possibly less expensive, and even give you a more powerful system that can do more for the average user. Video game players, go buy a computer or check out Stadia, a cloud-based game platform. Right now, Azure is really not the solution for video game playing. You can expect more videos on Windows 365 here on the channel, especially for education and school. Thank you so much for watching.